Yeah. It's a lot from like Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book, which is like, I'm not going to push you to push forward if you are hurting yourself and not doing it the right way. So often to encourage you to keep going, I will tell you to first take several steps back and zoom out and look at the bigger picture and the 80-20 rule of like what is actually bringing in business and where are you focusing your time and what brings you joy, and coming back to those like principles of like why we start a business in the first place. So I'm not just going to be like grind, work harder, go do the thing. I'm going to be like, let's take a minute, and are you even like working on the right thing?
Well, welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry, you're here, your host. I got Kavita here, who is a dating coach that's going to walk through her life and her story and give us some tips on everything. But Kavita, super glad you're on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'd love to hear what you do to help people. But before we do, let me ask you some key question that I ask everybody is, what does high performance mean to you? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think high performance to me is when you get into that, I guess, the steps that get you into that flow state. But generally, like the way I would describe it is when I can reach that point where day to day I feel like I have this direct connection to the universe with like nothing foggy, nothing standing in my way. Everything feels very clear. I'm able to make really quick decisions that I know are right. And I think also when I'm really like dialed into my intuition.
Yeah. Love that. That's a unique approach on it, which is always
Yeah.
yeah. Well, tell us what you do. How do you help people? What's the stride of success? What do you do right now?
I coach men. I'm a love coach for men. I'm a dating expert. I work exclusively with single men who are re-entering the dating scene in some capacity. So it could be they've been focused on their career for a long time and they just never really got around to it. It could be that you've been in a long-term relationship and you're just really maybe even dating for the first time because you ended up with the first person that you met. So entering the dating scene right now can feel scary. Your confidence around it can feel really low. So I help men rebuild that confidence, their self-esteem, and not only step back into the dating scene, but build an exciting dating life for themselves, and typically for men who are looking for something serious down the road.
I love that. I mean, that's really unique an approach, especially as a woman stepping into this and helping men do that. I mean, that's a different approach too, but we totally get it. Totally.
Yeah, we need that. You know, you want that somewhat of a, I don't want to say like softer approach, but there's a lot of men that come to me and they have their guy friends and they are great at being guy friends, but they are not necessarily great at guiding them in their love lives. And I think it's this very kind of like hard approach, and it's very like, okay, come on, like man up, do this, do that. And I just don't think that when men are trying to find love again and put themselves out there, are looking for that, it's not helping. So they need a bit more of a handheld, honestly, loving approach. If you're looking for love, you need a loving approach.
Well, I mean, it's also great to have a different perspective from the other side too. So you're helping people like, look, what you thought was always cool is not, like women are actually looking for this instead of that. And so you're actually helping them even on like the long-term relationship side, not just to find, someone,
Definitely. And I think the perspective is like, or one of the important pieces is that I've worked with women for so long as well. So I've been in this space for 13 years, but I worked with men and women for a very, very long time. So it's not really enough for me to say like, I'm a woman, so I know, I can't speak for all women out there, but it has been working with women for so many years and really understanding their perspective, their struggles on the dating scene, paired with working with men for so long and seeing what's happening there. And now, even though I have switched and transitioned to only working with men, I really bring that expertise in terms of like bridging the gap and understanding where that miscommunication lies, because the goal is the same. Everybody wants to find love, but the path to get there between men and women can look very different.
Yeah. How did you start this journey of high performance. Like, take us back into like when that switch turned on. Like, was it, because I know sometimes for me, for instance, when I got into high performance mode, it was reading a book from John Maxwell about leadership and really kind of understanding self improvement, and self development. And that was at 21, I think it was, right? And then, I had some challenges along the way in my journey with helping me really get in that prime location. But what was that for you? Like, what kind of switched the gears of like, hey, I got to be better, do better in that high performance to guide you in that journey? What did that look like?
Yeah, you know what? There's several points in my journey where I've had that kind of like light switch go off, and I've continued my path and reached like the next level and the next level, which has been really exciting. But as you ask me that, what comes to mind is when I got fired from my corporate job in my early 20s. And I know from like high school days, I was always starting little businesses with my friends, like party planning and like let's run tasks for people. And even my jobs in my early days were always like, I was like telemarketing jobs that were like very independent. So I was working for someone, but it also felt very independent, making my own schedule and things like that. So I think I knew I was always going to run my own business. And even when I got my corporate job, I stumbled into it. I didn't want it. I kind of just applied for this job because I had to. When I got the job, I was actually really upset about it. I was like, I didn't sign up. I didn't mean to sign up for this. And so when I got fired, which was a ridiculous reason to get fired, it was like I actually excelled at my job, and I had sent personal emails from my work account, and they let me go because of that. Not even my boss, but like HR, like the whole, thing with big companies. Yeah. So, and from that point, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think I'd also lost my father not too long before that. So I think just like this combination of like maybe I'm out here on my own and I have to figure this out for myself. And I started my first business before this one, which was a tech startup at the time. And I just went for it. I was 24. There wasn't even a question of what about this or what about this. I was just like, oh, I have this idea and I'm going to go for it. So that was a big turning point for me.
Amazing. What were some of the things that you learned that got into that? Like, what was it? Was it leadership that sparked that? Was it journaling? Was it like investing in programs? Was it mentorship? Like, help us understand what you did that really kind of shaped that, because I know you had your backstory of some tragedy that happens with your father passing and then getting into this, but what was it that really kind of helped you start getting into that momentum with things? What were those traits? What were those habits? What were those disciplines? What were the things you had to learn?
At that time, at 24, I don't know that I had the most like discipline, but I had this sense of independence that was like, I'm going to make it. Like, this is on me. I'm going to figure this out. This is what I'm made for. I think at that time it was more like,
it was a belief you had, it sounded like, of doing it on your own, which most of the time people are scared of even doing that.
Yeah. It just seemed very, I think at that point it was just very like, this is who I am. And I just wanted to step into that. I think also when you lose a parent at a young age, it can feel like, I knew that just given the dynamic of my family, like my role in the family changed. And not that there was no pressure on me to show up in a certain way, but maybe I felt that there was pressure in some way, or maybe I felt in some way that I had to show up differently, and I wanted to step up to the plate, sort of thing.
Did you feel like you almost had to prove something?
No, I didn't feel like that. I think I was really lucky at that age where it just seemed really fun. Was it fun running a tech startup for 2 years? It was really hard, but was it amazing? Yes, but no, I really, I think that when I talk about that feeling of independence, I really got to run with that and do it for myself at the time.
Yeah. What were some things that that happened in your journey here to get at? So I remember you saying you had some other businesses after this too. What did that help you in your high performance journey? What did that end up working through with you on?
Well, this is my second business, and this is my the current business. So after the tech startup, I ended up starting this company.
Okay.
And what was the question?
Like, just how did you end up getting it? What were the things that you did to help you on that journey to even more to the success you have right now? Help us tell that story.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I mean, I know that Tim Ferriss has been a huge part of my journey. So, just 4-hour work week and reading that and not even understanding what it was going to take at the time, but just knowing that that vision and those dreams were available and possible. And 4-hour work week is still so far from the actual, but for anyone that's read the book, we know that it's not actually about a 4-hour work week, but, just that dream of, again, you don't have to be tied down. You don't have to work from somewhere. You don't have to work with people. And something that's been really interesting, I've been running this company for 13 years now, and I've never had an office. I've never, even when it was very trendy to do so, there were times where I was like, should I get an office? This is weird working from home because I didn't know anyone else that was doing it at the time. But my team was always remote. Even if I was hiring local, I've only ever hired in Canada and also in the States. But even though my team was always local, even where I am in Montreal, I never, ever actually worked with someone. Everyone was always working remotely. So always having that freedom was really important to me. And then in terms of habits, the number one habit that really helped shape things was from Tim Ferriss, which was meditating, which I started meditating in 2015. That was life-changing. It's the one now the list of habits and routines are can be feel a little bit endless. But meditation was definitely one of the bigger ones when I first started getting into this more self-development journey. Yeah.
How do you prevent burnout? How do you go about doing this? Because you're a striver, you're a high performer, and oftentimes it's really hard to kind of look at all the opportunities out there, and how do you kind of really dive in with making sure that you can pace things well and help?
The truth is, and I think this is where meditation comes in too, where it's it is really becoming in tune with yourself and your intuition and listening to that inner voice, not the crazy one, the one that wants to realign you, and really recognizing, when you have these frameworks to operate by, or I would call them more directional principles almost. When you create these in your life, they provide direction. So principles that guide you in the right direction, and to create those and to actually develop a relationship with yourself where you are listening to what you should be doing and not be doing. And I did learn, the hard way, where sometimes you get lucky where the world it gives you an opportunity that you kind of can't refuse. So for me, I was on the verge of burnout at the end of 2019, because before I was doing what I'm doing now, my company started initially as a speed dating company. So I've been in the dating space for 13 years, but I've kind of just removed the layers and layers and layers and got to the core of what I am actually meant to be doing. But at the end of 2019, running these speed dating events across North America, it was brutal. It was so difficult. And it was the pandemic that hit that forced me to jump out of it. I had no choice,
Right.
but it ended up being a blessing in disguise because my whole business shifted, and I don't know where I would have ended up
Yeah.
on that path.
How did you adapt as a high performer when you hit with required shutdowns of your business and you have to pivot? Was this like a letdown? Like how quick was the rebound to rebuild and shift into what you're doing now? Because most of the time people, they hit a tragedy, they stub their toe once in entrepreneurship, and then they're done. Right?
Oh my gosh. No.
They give up,
No.
you know?
Yeah, no, not at all. It was like almost overnight. Like I remember I had events coming up that were like tickets were already sold to my speed dating events. I wish I could remember the date. Like it was March, and towards the end of March.
Yeah.
And the last in-person events I ran were March 5th, 4th and 5th. So this was like a couple weeks later. All the tickets were sold, and I immediately took all of those tickets, turned them into like virtual events, reached out to everyone. I'm like, you're still coming speed dating, but you're doing it online.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so important at that time too, because these are single people looking for love. The pandemic was so crazy in so many ways for so many people, but to kind of take that away for a lot of people that are living alone and out there looking to meet someone and trying their best. You're coming speed dating, you really are like doing all the things to meet someone. So it was really, I felt at that time like this is like a service I'm not going to take away when we need connection more than ever. So rebound, I don't even know if we rebound. We just like, this is happening, and we kept moving. Even, I would say even faster than before, but it worked because shifting everything online, I was no longer on the verge of burnout when I'm not like, logistics and running things and venues and all the package shipping and everything, which sounds so wild to me now, even saying it out loud.
Well, I mean, you pivoted so quickly, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And most of the time, sometimes when they hit some roadblocks, they just sit and whine about it for a while before they even like make a decision. And you made a resolve right then and there, like no matter what, this is the direction we're going. That's the type of leadership people need in their lives. And I love that with that, Coach. Well, what were some of the keys of your success? Like, what were some of the attributes or things that you had to learn to really kind of become this person that you are now?
Yeah.
You talked about some of the habits, which are very helpful to understand how you do that. But like, what are some things that you had to grow into, in essence? So like, did you have to study leadership? Did you have to learn more sales and marketing? Did you have to learn how to, you've invented the structure of fulfillment in this industry. Like that's mind blowing. But what were some of the key things that you had to really kind of lean into to develop into your success?
Well, there's two sides to it. One is, and this is the same in like in actual dating, right? So let me draw a parallel here. So when I talk to clients about dating, I'm like, listen, there's the strategic side of it, which is like what to say, where to go, how to set up your dating profile, different approaches, this is how you talk to women, this is how, so there's all that. It's very strategic. And I would compare that to reading the leadership books and learning the sales and marketing and automations and the funnels and content and Instagram strategies. Yeah. But then there's like the inner work and and yes, this stuff it all ties together and it does help. And when you educate yourself, it changes who you are. That adds to your confidence. But ultimately, for me, it was almost like Stoicism was like a big part of it, like realizing almost that, like, I don't know if this is going to sound weird, but like we're all going to I don't want to say it, like we're all going to die one day. And like often I'm just like, this doesn't matter. So, and which is weird because it's like, it's almost like I need to remind myself of that to actually care about it. It's like, okay, so I can take the risk. I can do the thing. I can also relax and be really chill about it and not like freak out over the small details because none of this is going to matter at the end of the day. So it allows me to have more freedom in what I do and have more fun. and play more in the space. So that's one thing. Another thing is those routines are important. They, again, calling them kind of like directional principles, like, because as an entrepreneur or as a human, you are going to deal with crazy ups and downs. You are going to have stuff going on in your personal life that is going to, overflow into your business life. And you have to have ways to continue to show up and deal with this stuff. So having reliable ways to deal with your overwhelm and keep your head above the water and keep making those decisions and keep putting one foot in front of the other, I think those are those foundational pieces that without that in place, all the books and all the courses and all the funnels in the world aren't really going to matter if they're just kind of like sitting on top of a very unstable foundation. And then the other thing I would say is, I've been so lucky. I don't know what it is, but man, have I been lucky with working with such amazing people. I've really, including like friends and family, but just for people to believe in me and believe in the work and what we're putting out into the world and really helping from a place of genuine kindness, even when there wasn't money and like interns and just like people are like, I'm going to help you build this. And that has just, it's not, I haven't done it alone from day one. I was never in this alone. It's my company. I'm the only owner, but it's never been like a solo project. And I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Has that been hard to ask for help? I know sometimes like we feel like we have to control it all because it's our baby or anything. Like when was the point where you had to like, I got to get help, and how do I rely on them? Like that's, you're probably naturally gifted at connecting with people because you do what you're doing. But how did you end up dealing and coping with some of those things?
I think I was kind of like, I was the opposite where I'm like, I need help immediately. So before I even like had my very first speed dating event, I went on Craigslist. I like put up an ad. I'm like, I need an intern. I was 26 years old. I'm like, I need an intern like live. And I remember one person applied officially, like people applied but didn't show up. But one guy applied and we met for lunch and he's like, I'm willing to help you. And I'm like, done. Like, what? If you're going to help, you're going to help. And I just remember immediately giving him tasks that I didn't even understand. I'm like, write a blog, do this, do that. And he was like, I'm on it. And I was like, all right. And that person actually, he's one of my absolute best friends in the world today. We see each other all the time. And, but yeah, so he started with me back then. So it was never really like I don't think there was ever a point, even my tech startup before, I was always very like, I need help. I need help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, how do you balance it all? Like, as a high performer, sometimes we put way more on our plate, or we try to like just add stuff. How do you balance? How do you structure your day? How do you plan your year? Like, help me understand how you really kind of do all of what you do.
Yeah. It really comes down to mindset. At the end of the day, I read this, you can pack everything in your day, but it's really about getting really comfortable. It's not about tactics to get more done. It's about getting really comfortable, knowing that it's not all going to get done and being okay with that. And that's hard. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I'm saying I know it. And that's another example of the foundation being strong, where, yeah, I will pack my day. I will have these very ambitious, like, I'm going to get through 101 items. I don't, and I never will be able to, and being okay with that. And again, it comes down to like, nobody really cares, right? Like, no, like if for me, the most important thing, honestly, is to show up as a professional. It is to be a person of your word, to be reliable, to be consistent. Those are the things that need to happen. But aside from that, the rest, there should be room for being a bit more like gentle with yourself. There is this series. It's not a podcast, but like a talk series. It's on the Waking Up app by Sam Harris. And It's called, it's not by Sam Harris. I forget the name now, but he's amazing. But anyways, it's called Time Management for Mortals. And it's just this reminder. It's so good. It's excellent. That no one can articulate this concept better than the guy that did it. But oh God, I wish I remembered his name. But he just talks about, like, that's what it is. Like, we create these never-ending to-do lists. We act like it's infinite, but we are not. Like, we have a time limit here, and we are not going to get it all done. And we have this illusion that if we just work more, if we just finish this list today, that it'll finally get done. But it will never actually get done. The list will always continue. There will always be something more, and just like realizing that that's life and that's normal, and if you're a high performer, it's always going to be that way.
Totally good perspective. It's so true.
Yeah. And the other thing, like, also I learned from that, which is like, don't get so rigid about your routines, because it's actually those moments where your sister-in-law wants to drop in for lunch in the middle of the day, and your kid runs up to you. I don't have kids, so I'm just saying for people who do. Your kid runs up to you in the middle. Like, don't be so like, this is my creative block. And it's like, at the end of it all, those are not going to be the moments that you remember that you, thank God I stuck to every routine every single day. And it's those are the joyful, that's life. Like, that's life. So have the routines, have the things that you know are going to help you show up the way that you want to show up, but know that you have to live your life at the same time. And I think the rule is, sure, have the routines, but don't be so like crazy rigid about them.
Yeah. With the flexibility you have now and the things you learned with that, how important was at the very beginning of your entrepreneurship journey to like just say, I'm grinding and this is going to be the focus no matter what, like I need to, was that implementing, like, was that your focus of like doing it, like, or how important is that for an entrepreneur when they first start?
I think a lot has changed since the time I started out. So that whole like hustle culture and go and don't sleep, like I think that's kind of like toxic today, and I don't think that we have to be that way. Like, and that's why there's these questions about how do you avoid burnout? What did you do when you were on the verge of burnout? Like, I don't think, like, if I was helping someone with their business today, and I would not ever want them to get to that point. And that's why these practices, it's almost like an undoing. And that's why these practices about dealing with your overwhelm and exercise and walking and the fresh air and the sunlight and the therapy, like, that's why all of this is so prevalent today, because we are trying to like undo this crazy way of thinking and working that became like, you know, some sort of like badge of honor.
You're right. Yeah.
So
what would you tell people, for either people that are like on the fence and they need to be pushed to start something, or people that are already in the trenches to help motivate them to just keep on doing what they're doing? Because it's not easy to be an entrepreneur, and helping, you know, and reminding people to push through, and also people to say, hey, you got to get started, you got to do it today. What are some of those things that you would give advice on for people that are either starting and or still pushing through an entrepreneur? What would be things that you would advise them on?
Yeah. It's a lot from like Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book, which is like, I'm not going to push you to push forward if you are hurting yourself and not doing it the right way. So often to encourage you to keep going, I will tell you to first take several steps back and zoom out and look at the bigger picture, and the 80-20 rule of like, what is actually bringing in business, and where are you focusing your time, and what brings you joy, and coming back to those like principles of like why we start a business in the first place.
Right.
So I'm not just going to be like grind, work harder, go do the thing. I'm going to be like, let's take a minute, and are you even like working on the right thing? I remember I spoke to Dan Martell as a business coach and content creator and all the good things. I spoke to him back in 2018, and I was running my speed dating company, and it was just like, it was very, very, very challenging to keep it moving and to grow. And as it was the kind of business where as you scale, quality control becomes like a big issue because there are live events in several cities. And I remember he told me, he was like, we had maybe, I don't know, a 30-minute call, and he was very kind to offer me that time. And he was like, based on what you're sharing with me about speed dating, I would almost tell you to stop, go travel the world for a year, and then come back with fresh eyes. And he's like, at this point, the way you're like kind of banging your head against the wall, you are going to just serve yourself so much better by going and learning about the world than trying to continue running the business the way you are. And I'm glad I didn't listen, just because of where I've ended up, and I'm so grateful that, the paths guided me where I needed to be now. But the advice was sound at the time. And I mean, I'm sure had I made that choice to listen to him, I'm sure I would have ended up exactly where I was meant to be anyways. Maybe I'd be here. Who knows? Just, a loop around. Maybe happier. Maybe the path would have been less difficult. But that's a good example of like, who is saying you have to stay on this exact like path? It's almost like, to a fault, sometimes we are trying to push to make something work, and maybe that's the right thing to do, but not without the right frameworks and thought processes. And another, honestly, the last tip I would give is be like, go and hire yourself a coach who can guide you.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. What's the everyday carry for you? I know you work from home, but if you go out and about, what are the things that you have with you? And I know some of the normal stuff, but do you have anything unique that you always bring with you? You got your phone, you got your keys. For me, I always bring a pen because everybody needs a pen,
Yeah. I honestly, like, if I'm going to be out for the day, I have I usually have like a change of clothes. So I am all about comfort. So I will always, like, if I'm going to dinner at a friend's house, for example, I will always have like an extra like sweatshirt and leggings in my in my back seat or something. Running, if I'm in heels, I'll always be running shoes in the car. So I always have, so even at that's actually funny. So even if I'm going to work at a coffee shop, I'll bring socks. And when I get to the coffee shop, I put socks on. Say it's summer and I'm in flip-flops or sandals or whatever. I need like my comfy, cozy vibe. And I've learned that wherever I'm going, like, I'm bringing my cozy with me somehow or another.
You're thinking so much ahead, like what could happen. You got your jacket and
I do. I do. I honestly, like, it's been interesting, like, learning about this side of myself. But yeah, I feel like there's no room for like discomfort. So whatever is in my control, that's in my control, like on my being, I'm all for, like, put yourself in uncomfortable situations and that will grow, and that's separate. But as far as like on me, I will make sure I'm as comfortable as possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. If people wanted to follow you and to connect with you further about what you do and just connect with you, how can people do that? How can people follow you? And I'll put all these links down below, by the way, too.
Yeah, best places for sure. The Instagram, message me, DM me, and that's at Dashing Date. So, and I'm like, pumping out as much content as I can, dating tips and advice, and, even these like directional principles I was talking about. I'm always kind of like flipping what I know and what's worked for me and flipping it and applying it to the dating world, really helping people set that foundation strong. So all of that good stuff is there. And I do, lives, and I have a private community as well. So, but it all starts, it's the best place to connect with me and start there.
So amazing. Yeah. Super stoked that you were able to join us and like learn about kind of who you are, your backstory, and everything. If you had one last piece of advice before we wrap it up, what would you give to the audience here?
I'm going to say to meditate, because if it's 5 minutes a day, whatever it is, like just do it. There's this quote that it's like, if you're too busy to meditate for 10 minutes a day, then you need an hour, something like that. Like if you really think, because that's like one of the biggest, people like fight back on it. They're like, well, I don't have time. And it's like, if you don't, and I still till today, after all these years of doing it, I'm like in the morning, I'm like, gotta race to the thing. And it's like, that is, you need it most. We who feel that way, like we have to race against time, really need it most. And that calming moment, just to like reconnect with yourself, ground yourself, is what will get you through the day, is what will get you through difficult moments, is what will help you feel that much more productive and be that much more productive. And not to give up on it. Like 5 minutes a day, like do it, commit to it for 60 days, 30 days, minimum 30 days, because the effects will show up in the most unexpected ways, where you suddenly react differently or feel somewhat differently. You're like, whoa, that was weird. Normally I would react this way. Normally this would piss me off or whatever. And suddenly you're like, I didn't react that way. Or you actually take that pause and you're like, hold on a second, where did this come from? And then you're like, oh, well, that is probably, that's probably where it's coming from.
I appreciate that. We'll have some links down below. Great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and we will see you guys on the next show.
Thank you.